really the so-called possibility the German Jews assisted the Nazi regime in the field of communication. And you say that you said that in contact with the same communique the Germans prepared, Ludwig Tietz and his friends went abroad and apparently
got the permission to go abroad.
Apparently told the truth to the English Jews.
Exactly, yes.
Okay.
Now, I want also to say this. There may have, in fact, there have taken place negotiations during the years between the Nazis and the Jews with the purpose that up to a point the Nazis got some advantages, but the corresponding advantage for the Jews in Germany was that it may have helped them to facilitate the immigration. You know, there were a number of schemes. For example, the question of transfer of money.
Okay, we talked about this problem with Mr.
Oh yes, yes.
What is his name? Michaelis.
Yes. No, I also
give us details about the whole process.
No, I also know. For example, I was closely connected, and in fact, I have written about a manuscript, which, by the way, is in your office, about a group of boys and girls who were emigrating from a training farm in Germany. Now, the scheme was that this, as a group, would be permitted to emigrate to South America with the consent of the Nazis.
Mm-hmm.
You know? So, my point there is, there have been situations where a kind of bargaining position, you know, and if somebody is ill-minded, one can say, you know, the Jews did something which pleased the Nazis. Well, it was a do or death, you know, it was a bargaining position, right?
Right. Look, I have some other short questions.
Yes,
yes. I want to really, first of all, why if you could tell us, why do you think didn't the Nazis close down the CV? The CV was known as a fighting against anti-Semitism. And the CV also was known as a liberal organization. Why was the CV in Frankfurt and the other cities not just closed down by the Nazis, as other organizations were closed down?
Well, I think they used the organization for their own ends. And I know, for example, that my particular job at the time was again focused towards emigration. If you look at the CV Zeitung, from 1933 onwards until it was prohibited, I think 38 or I don't know when it was prohibited, you will see the whole emphasis was immigration. And of course, when we came together in our meetings, we knew this was the overall thing. But, you know, we tried to put in things. I give you another instance. We had meetings with the consent of the Nazis. And I remember I spoke myself at meetings why it was encouragement to immigration, but at the same time also it was a moral booster. Mm-hmm. Say, it was important. You were, I almost must compare, though it is not the right comparison possibly, you know, Israel is at the moment, you know, we have hardly any friends, you know, everybody attacking us, United Nations, whatever you call it, you know, and the inner morale, you know, you have to keep up so that you can carry on. And when I addressed meetings, it was, because there was always in the back in the synagogue, you know, there was a Gestapo man sitting there listening, and I have to repeat 100 times the word Auswanderung, you know, immigration, you know, but in fact, what I told them, you know, try to do it as orderly as you can, don't panic, and we were a resource person, we tried to help them with contacts overseas, we tried to help them in the liquidation, we tried to advise them what to do with the children.
You did CV?
Yes. We came kind of, see, everything that CV became under the heading, we were not called Auswanderungsorganisation, but legal advice, you know, Rechtsberatung. you know.
Did already you answer my question, what was really your organizational activities after 35? This was the activity.
Exactly. Look, for example, I only spoke the other day. See, even institutions like Martin Buber's Lehrhaus in Frankfurt, I gave lectures there about immigration. It's a look, you see, if people talk about jüdische Lehrhaus in Frankfurt and Martin Buber, people have the concept, you know, of very big spiritual, biblical research things. But it's somewhere, I hope I still find it, on the programs of the Lehrhaus, I'm lecturing about preparation for immigration under the Jüdische Lehrhaus.
Okay. Another question I want to ask you. Excuse me that I make a little bit
Sure,
shorter.
it's easier.
It's easier. So, what did you have any contact with anti-Nazis in Germany, in Frankfurt or not? You may deny it on the spot, so it's no problem.
I'm thinking, not really, you know.
I don't speak about communists, but let me say, even about...
I tell you, overall, I would say, I have, well, early after 33, we all discovered there were too many fence sitters in Germany. We lost trust in Germans, even in so-called close friends, because we didn't even blame the Germans. You know, there were so many sitting on the fence. They tried how the wind was blowing, and they were. Not everybody was courageous. They were risking themselves if they made some concession to the Jews, you know. In this connection, I don't know whether of interest, I remember something which really put us in a difficult position. You know, the Jews around Frankfurt and Hessen were very Orthodox. And after the Nazis introduced the anti-Shechita laws, the Jews were carrying on and had in the Taunus and in Odenwald, they had Shechita there. But they couldn't do it without some people who Goyim, who were Nazis, you know? So actually, they broke the law together with the Nazis. And then there were, of course, now and then it came out and there was trouble, you know? And this was the other side of the coin. But basically, I would say we were very, very suspicious of every Nazi.
You didn't trust the Goyim, even they pretended to be anti-Nazis.
Well, this never came out openly. You know?
No, but
nobody would have said so. Nobody would have said so. But I call them fence sitters. And I mean, I still, we get visits here from people from Germany, you know, who are say they're wonderful and regret everything. But I think every German is a potential fence sitter. It's my opinion.
Okay. Who did really finance your activities of the CV? You had to pay...
membership fees.
Only membership fees? This
Yes.
was enough? To pay the salaries and the whole organization?
Yes. No, they had funds, you know. Of course, all these funds after 33 were under scrutiny by the Nazis, you know. And they had a budget because it was then termed, no, I wouldn't say termed, the other way around. It was labeled as a immigration organization, you know.
Mm-hmm. Tell me, the CV in Frankfurt was a certain kind of democratic organization. There were some elections, or
yes, completely. We had the president, Dr. Max, the chairman, Vorsitzender, Dr. Max Mainzer, and then we had the council, and actually we had everybody of the leading Jews in it, even people who had interest for Palestine. See, I came there only after 33, you know, as I think I pointed out. In fact, I don't know whether I mentioned this. 1933, there were some charges made against the then secretary, Syndikus he was called, Dr. Martin Marx. He was arrested, and a trial was prepared against him. And actually, this is how I came to Frankfurt.
You told me about it.
Oh, yes. By the way, this has been written up, I can, in German. I can show you the book in a minute, too.
Okay, that's fine. But I wanted to know, because there were really elections in the framework of the CV. So the people elected were really the representatives and members.
It was an organization. We had our annual meetings and elections, sure.
Did you have all the meetings after the Nuremberg laws?
Yes.
And in all these meetings, Nazis were sitting.
Yes, yes, always super.
But you continued with your meetings until your
My
departure from Germany.
Yes, yes. By the way, the organization carried on after my departure, and I had a successor, and the poor devil, he is now in New York. His name was Feibelmann, and he calls himself Fields now, and he was
What is it?
Feibelmann.
Yes, and his name?
Fields, he calls himself Fields now,
Fields.
F-I-E-D-S, and the poor guy, he was arrested, you know, and taken concentration camp, and fortunately he got out and is now in New York.
And later, during the time you were in Frankfurt, excuse me, a short question.
Sure, yeah.
Did you have some contact with youth movements in Frankfurt?
Sure.
What did you do for the youth movement? Only immigration or other things?
No, immigration, mainly immigration. In the widest sense, you know, this included education. See, we worked also with the schools. There were 2 Jewish schools in Frankfurt,
and
which became very important. You had the Philanthropien and the Samson Raphael Hirsch Schule. One was in Orthodox.
Philanthropien and?
Samson Raphael Hirsch Schule.
Yes, the Orthodox school.
Yes, and you know, they became a very, very important sources, you know, through the pressure from outside and the refusal of the other schools to accept Jews, they became very big. And also, of course, all the children from the country came to Frankfurt and went to these schools.
Yes, but what did you do as safe house in the schools?
We helped them with material. We had very good archive. We had educational material.
All with money?
Not to the best of my knowledge, not directly from us. See, on the rise, as I told you, you know, they became very well organized, German Jewry, under the pressure of Nazis, and they had a special education section in Berlin, and they sort of looked after the finance of the Jewish education institution all over Germany. But I wouldn't have it directed to do. I mean, maybe some ad hoc thing, you know. But on a bigger level of budgeting, this was done through Berlin, through the central organization.
And what did you contribute to the education safe house?
Well, we provided them with material, we talked to them. They may even have had a shortage of teachers. I remember I have been there repeatedly, talked to them. I mean, I'm not a teacher, you know, but certain information, we told them about other countries. After all, I went to Australia. Who knew something about Australia? You know, now everybody knows probably, but who knew in 1933, 4, 8, something about Australia, or for that matter, other countries? You know, people went to the Dominican Republic. Who knew where that was? It was on the moon or in South America, you know? See, in retrospective, things look different as they were under the pressure.
Okay, another question is, did you have some contact with the French groups, let us say in the Naumann group and the Chefs group, CV, because they were really different from the other groups?
Well, look, I want to tell you again, some people may have in the bottom of their heart still carried these ideas. But when the physical pressure came from outside, when the Nazis didn't make any difference between Naumannianer or Zionists, all these things disappeared. Of course they had contact, you know. Well, I have a recollection which stands out in my memory. I was, before I worked for the Zentralverband Berlin, I was trained to become a legaman. I was at the Kammergericht in Berlin.
Yes, you told me about.
Yes. See, the Kammergerichtsrat, you know, a man who never admitted being Jew, he suddenly came to our office to ask for advice. So all these differences, whatever people say, disappeared, except possibly they were more interested to go to America or somewhere else instead of to Palestine, you know. So even these, you know, these things changed.
How long did they really maintain their identity as German national? These groups.
Now look, I would say this, and this was a very contentious affair. This sends round the Reichsbund Jüdischer Frontsoldaten.
Yes.
You know? Well, you know, of course, that when the Nazi legislation was introduced, the Frontsoldaten, the ex-servicemen, got certain concessions. They were allowed to carry on one way or the other, you know. In fact, even some people were dismissed from concentration camps earlier because they were ex-servicemen. And this brought a split in the Jewish community, because they said, after all, you didn't become a Frontsoldat just to have some advantages now. So I would say this was just at the beginning, but later on there was no difference anymore.
Mm-hmm. Later on, it means after 35.
Yes.
After the Nuremberg laws.
Definitely not.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Did you have any contact with, let us say, Christian circles, not anti-Nazis, but liberal circles, conservative circles in Frankfurt after 33?
No,
you didn't.
not to the best of my knowledge, recollection. Look, nothing which would stand out, you know. That see, the situation was that people were even afraid to talk to us. Mm-hmm. And see, if I remember things like you go to Frankfurt and all the Jewish shops had this label on it, you know, nicht Aria. It was a complete isolation. There was no communication. In fact, people were happy if Goyim didn't come to you. We tried to keep for ourselves as much as we could, you know. Because
maybe in Berlin it's a little bit different.
Well, I was not very long. I mean,
but I was told that in Berlin it was a little bit different.
Maybe, but my recollection in Frankfurt. Of course, I want to say this. See, I was in a relatively exposed position. I mean, I don't want to make a hero out of me, but the emphasis was this. While I was in Frankfurt, the trial against Martin Marx was prepared and went on. He was sentenced and then sent to concentration camp. I was in an office which was all the time under the scrutiny of the Gestapo, you know. So I was particularly reserved in my contacts.
I understand.
It may be other people had a different experience.
Do you know anything about anti-Nazi activities of the CV abroad?
No, I don't know whether I mentioned to you. All I know is that Dr. Wiener brought out his the material. I don't know whether it was the last time.
You told us about that.
Yes, it was to Austria and then to Amsterdam.
Yes, that we know.
Well, I think not CV as such, but through Dr. Wiener.
Dr. Wiener.
Dr. Wiener, he did enormous work.
Yes, that we know, that you already told us.
Yes,
but CV itself.
No.
Another question I want to ask you. Do you know, could you tell us something about the so-called cartel convent?
Of course, I can tell you everything about because I remember.
You told us in your article that you were a member, and as Ludwig Tietz was against your membership.
Yes.
But you said it was too forward organized.
Well, see,
so
I can tell you something about it. It's very interesting.
Okay,
I'm happy you're asking this question.
Okay.
See, the cartel convent was established, by the way, at a time when but this is just coincidentally in Vienna and in some places, I think in Prague, Jewish organizations, student organizations, were formed at the university to fight against anti-Semitism.
When?
And this was 1899 or even before. Now wait a minute. It was a few years ago, the 80th anniversary. It was 1705, the 80th anniversary. Can you work this back? It was in the 80s of last century, around that time, between 80 and 90. Well, my friend will kill me if I don't know when it was established, but I forgot. But it was at that time, you know, and you have to see it against the scenery at that time. And we tried, or they tried, the founder of the KC tried to fight the anti-Semitic student movements with their own means. That means we got we were wearing what they called couleur. We had our special caps, you know. We have ribbons. In fact, I can show you. I still have it here. And we were fighting with Säbeln, with sabers, you know. And many of our men, well, there are not so many left there, but less than 300 now, left all over the world, tried first to fight against them in the student duels. And this was a very, very, at the time, effective movement. And this organization produced quite a number of very well-known Jewish leaders, German Jewish leaders. We had some rabbis were there. And this was a educational, also, we had two ways of where we tried to educate the young Jewish students who came really what you would may call assimilated homes.
You're talking about the 20s, especially now.
No, I'm talking yes, in the 20s. You know. But this went on all the time. It was, of course, many years before Hitler when I started studying. You know, they were Jews who were not committed Zionists or were indifferent. Some were there were some anti-Zionists. It was a wide range of people, and we had two. It was disciplined, which was important, you know. It was disciplined. We they saw to it that the students dressed properly, that behaved properly, and there were two, well, you may call it training officers. One more for the outward behavior, and the other one for Jewish education, or general education, but Jewish particularly. And they were an all-German university, on major universities. And this thing lingers on even up today, and we are all over the world. We have an address book. When I go anywhere in the world, I have a place where I can ring someone. We come together from time to time. Last Friday, I had Friday night together with one of our members, is here, whom I never met before I come to Israel. And there are people, there's, you may know him, Avraham, who was at the Mizrat Hassad. You may know him. He is a member of this organization, and really people who, my point is, this education, despite the fact that the ideology of at the time is, of course, discredited now, was a personality-forming organization which produced proud Jews who made their marks wherever they went. This applies to America, this applies to Israel, and other parts of the world.
I understand this was a students' organization
Yes,
of Jews organized in the same form as a German student organization,
yes,
in order to fight
with
their own means the anti-Semitism of these organizations, of the German organization.
Now,
and by which organization, Jewish organization, was this organization supported?
Well, we had our own funds.
Your own funds?
Yes.
You were not supported by the CV or by the Ariot?
Well, I mean, in fact, one of the directors was a former member, you know. In fact, several of the leaders of CV were members, you know, from the student years.
And why really Ludwig Tietz was against your
party? Well, this was a matter of Jewish movement, you know. He resented the sort of imitation of German student discipline, or this kind of the methods, you know. His approach was
more windish.
Yes. Some in this respect.
More windish.
Yes.
And not very organized and formal with uniform.
Exactly.
And he was against it.
Yes.
He was against. He was against fighting.
Well, actually.
Was he against fighting with?
Sure, definitely. Yes.
With rebels.
Yes. Oh, yes, definitely. Yes.
But not in, his opposition was not in the field of ideology, I understand.
Well, no. It's it was a sort of a youth education, you know.
I understand.
Yes. Look, I mean,
But
I want to tell you, unfortunately, only a few weeks ago I got the news, one of my co-students, a rabbi in California, died, you know. So I can show you the interest. We have an address book, you know, all over the world. I showed you if you like. No?
Later. Then it means you organized until today a certain kind of convent,
No, well, we are a friendship group now.
a friendship group.
Yes, in fact, I tell you, we are collecting money. There's a fund in New York, which supports either members or widows or children who are in need. And something you'll be interested, there is a katzeh forest in Israel. Under the you can ask Keren Kayemet office. It's near Shemesh, and once the trees were planted by members from England and America and Israel, and approximately once a year, this katzeh from Jerusalem, Tel Aviv, and Haifa, we go there and we have a kind of a picnic.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Do you know anything about the Jüdische Volkspartei?
Was it the Kareski? Look,
It was not Kareski, it was not the Betar, Jüdische Volkspartei.
no, the name, look, frankly speaking, I can't put my finger on it. I have only a recollection about a very unsavory character with the name of
Yes,
Kareski.
That's known. Look,
Yeah,
if,
yeah.
if you don't know about that, I don't know about it. Another question, do you know, did you get any help from the joint, American joint, in the Hilfsverein in Frankfurt?
Well, look, I tell you what happened. If you say help, there were a permanent flow of visitors from American organizations as advisors, you know, because they tried to prepare. See, this was as I told you, an excellent organized scheme, the Auswanderung, and very often people from America, particularly America, came to us with the permission of the Nazi authorities to prepare for immigration. So they came there to interview people, you know, to prepare projects and all this. And I remember that people came there now and then, agricultural experts, people who were concerned with training facilities and all this. I really must say this.
From abroad, from
abroad,
from the United States also.
particularly America. I remember one man was, my wife knows more people, but this was a Mr. Glick from Pittsburgh. He was fantastic. And also, I must give credit to these people. After all, they exposed themselves to certain dangers, you know.
I understand.
And I know, as far as Frankfurt is concerned, I do not think that they got directly financial help because this would go over the central office in Berlin, but I have a very definite recollection of experts visiting repeatedly the area.
Why did you go to Australia, yourself? How did you organize to go to Australia? This
Well-
story you haven't told me.
No. Well, this was this was comparatively very straightforward, but I was at the time married. In fact, I married. It shows you how optimistic you can be. While I was in this position in Frankfurt, I got married. You know, I married in December '33, and I had come about around Rosh Hashanah '33 to Frankfurt. So my whole future was uncertain, but yet I decided to get married. I got married in Breslau, and my wife's family had established contact with London in the following manner. My brother-in-law was a good tennis player who belonged to a Jewish tennis club which was invited to London to play there against another tennis club. And one of the leaders of the English jury was a Julian Layton, whose name was Löwenstein, and at that
Layton?
Layton. At that time, his mother was alive. The family came originally from Frankfurt, but they lived in London, and he was a very successful stockbroker, or is, He's still alive. I can show you his picture also in the book. He had connections through his brokerage to Australia. And when my brother-in-law was in London and Julian was in charge of the immigration to Australia at Woburn House, which was then the head office of called in London Woburn House, W-O-B-U-R-N, and now then later on was Bloomsbury House. The head office of the Jewish immigration efforts to Australia were in London, and Julian Layton was in charge. So on one occasion, when my brother-in-law was playing there, he said, "What, you're staying in Germany, it's time for you to go." See, as it happened, to another illustration, my father-in-law at that time had a men's clothing factory in Breslau, and it was going well. It going well, you know, and he was a blind optimist, you know. It can, you know, it's unbelievable, you know, but he couldn't believe it, and he didn't want to send his son. Now, when Julian said, "What about Australia?"